Hello everyone and welcome to the channel. I'm Emmanuel, I'm an airline pilot, and today we'll have another look at the Azzurri C160 TRANSALL, transport aircraft constructed by the Germans and the French for their particular air forces. Now, the C160 has just seen a new update, version 1.2.1, and ever since we featured it on our channel for the last time, we have now gotten a flight management system, we've got heads-up displays, we got the ability to drop troops and cargo, and a lot more with the updates in the meantime. What I can say already is that Azzurri is certainly a developer holding up to their promises. You will remember the first version of the TRANSALL, which barely lacked any IFR capabilities, to an airplane that now actually features a flight management system. Now, we gotta take the word flight management system with a little grain of salt, in that it is not an FMS like we know it from our Boeing or Airbus aircraft. The C160 is equipped with a somewhat simpler system, yet it holds its own genius and it is certainly gonna get us where we want to go. So why don't you just follow me inside and we'll have a look at how the airplane looks like now. So, this is it, our cockpit of the C160. You can see the most obvious thing, the heads-up display straight in front of us. Now, to be totally fair, the German Air Force didn't have heads-up displays in the C160s, only the French did. However, for the sake of demonstration, I'm going to include them in today's flight as well, even though we're featuring a German plane. And as you can see, you can toggle them independently on the electronic flight bag down here. Alright, apart from that, what else do we have? Well, we have not installed the GNS 430 in here. We've removed that because in place of it we're going to use our flight management system today. Alright, we've also loaded up a couple of troops in our bay, but I'm going to go into more detail about those later on during the flight. Okay, so do follow me up inside and we are going to close our doors and then we will start with our procedures. So if you do own the TRANSALL, it is worth to update your manual from the Azzurri website every now and then, because we're now at revision number 12 of a manual, so they do frequently update it when they update the general airplane as well. So certainly worth getting the latest version of the manual before all your flights. Okay, so cargo is loaded up. You can see we've got a tank in here, we've got some barrels, we got some boxes, and most importantly we got some paratroopers with us today. And you'll see that that cargo dropping button here is new as well. We'll talk about that later on in the flight. Okay, cool. So I do suppose we will just start getting it up and running. So we make sure the fuel valves are open. That's the levers we got all the way up here. Then battery 1 and 2 going on. And those are the batteries. Yep, silence. Thank you. Okay, battery voltage check. We do find that all the way up here, and then we can, well, we can just move ourselves into a nicer position here. That's looking better, is it? Okay, so battery voltage is checked. Then fire detection system test. We have that up here. So let's go for it. That's the fire detection system tested. And then anti-collision light on. We do find the anti-col right up here. A little bit nicely hidden down there. Fuel burn indicators reset. Number 1. Number 2. Reset. APU air inlet open. And APU starter on. Okay, so the APU is starting up, as we can see up here, and when it's doing that we also check the red hydraulic system to be sure that everything is running there as it's supposed to. So just give it a little while as the APU is starting up. Alright, the APU is reaching 100 RPM or 100%, and we can see hydraulic pressure on the red system is increasing as well. Perfect. So, with the APU now running, we can turn on generator number 5, and that's the one we find just up here. That's the APU generator. Okay, engine vibration meters on. Both sides on, then IRS 1 and 2 on. Here we go. Trims tested. Perfect. Flight commands free. So let's do a quick flight control check up here. And that is looking good. Okay, altimeters calibrated. So it got the altimeters right up here. I am just going to press the B button. And look at that. It's actually 1013 at the moment. Okay, fuel quantity announced. So that's what we've got up here. And that is sufficient for a flight. Then water methanol quantity is looking good as well. And then let's go ahead and go for our fuel pumps, which we've got down here. Okay, fuel pumps on. Fuel pressure is checked. Air conditioning bleed air valves, all three of them close. So they are located up here, and we gotta make sure all three are closed. Okay, prop sync off. I do believe that is somewhere down here. Yep, prop sync is off. And guarded, propeller brake off. That's checked. Condition levers cut off. They're in cut off. Idle levers to start. Number 1 and number 2. And observe the start indications right up here. Okay, doors closed. That's the door indicator. Everything is closed. And the bulbs are working. Okay, APU bleed air on. General engine start switch on. That's the one over here. And then park and brake on. Set. And prop area clear. So we're clear on the left side. And then we must also be clear on the right side. So just a quick thing as we go over here. Covers need to be removed. And the wheel chocks can be removed as well now. Okay, very good. So with that, we are now ready for our engine start. Before we do that, let's quickly move our first officer in place. Navigator can go right to his seat, and we are going to advance our seat as well. Perfect. Okay, so that all looks good to me. Then let's go ahead and start the engines. So we're going to start engine number 2 first.
Clear prop. Clear.
Okay, so we've got the RPMs increasing. At 2000 RPMs we move the condition lever to low idle. At 3500 the idle lever to norm. And that is it for the engine number 2 then. And thereafter we'll do engine number 1. The previous versions, as you will remember from my previous videos, did have a bug which caused the condition levers to just return themselves to the cutoff position when you try to advance them into the high idle position. Now, apparently in the changelog there is something that's been worked on, so it's going to be exciting to see if that fix actually worked, because those engines just shutting themselves down all the time used to be a little bit annoying, if I can say so. But we are going to see about that in a few moments. Okay, starter is out, and then we can go ahead with number 1. Okay, so 1000 RPMs. The big one is the thousands, the small one is the hundreds. I'm sure you knew that already. But personally I didn't know that for quite a while in flight simulation, and you wouldn't believe how much easier some things have gotten after I just understood how to read those small pointers. Okay, 3500. Idle lever to norm. Okay, and the engine's running up. Very good. Okay then, after start procedure. General start switch. Off, generators, all 4 of them coming on. Spoilers. So, let's quickly turn up the EFIS. That's our aero brake right up there. Okay, spoilers are tested. Flight commands. Interesting how the French call the flight controls flight commands, but so be it. Okay, trim, set, hydraulic pressure. So that's all the 3 systems looking good, checked, and taxi light to come in a moment before we start taxi. So let's now go ahead and program our avionics. Squawk, well, something IFR. Gonna switch that transponder on, and here we go. Okay, so in order to enter anything on the flight management system, you press the button in question, and then with those 3 buttons up here, you can switch between the letter. So for a German Air Force, it's gonna be click the 3, then click the button up here, and now we've got a Golf. A, F, and the flight number is 596. Okay, enter that in here. Down we go, from 2. We're going from Echo, Delta, Delta, Sierra to Echo, Delta, Delta, Kilo. Enter. Okay there. At EDDS we can hit expand, and that way we are going to find all the lovely stuff here like our SIDs. So hit expand again, and now we can choose from our standard instrument departures. So that's quite easy, isn't it? Okay, so let's go ahead then. It's gonna be runway 25 in use today, so it's a target 4 Bravo departure. So we can scroll down now until we find the target. Here we go, target 4 Bravo. Enter. And that basically loads up the SID, and now we can load up the runway as well. 25, enter, and that is our SID inserted. Now on the flight plan page you can see we've got our entire standard instrument departure in here. Okay, and that is basically how you insert the SID. Now let's go ahead and insert the next waypoint. So I hit the change button down here, and now we need to enter every waypoint on its own. So there is no airways in this FMS, and that, according to the developer, is realistic. So we'll go to Warthog at first. Warthog, enter, enter, and now we've got Warthog in there. And now like that we need to enter basically all the waypoints. Next up is my favorite waypoint. Askek. So, real story here. I flew over Askek a lot when I was based at my previous home base, and there was an American Airlines flight that was sent direct to that waypoint, but German ATC likes to pronounce it Askek. So that American simply didn't understand where he was sent to. So guess what happened? Eventually the controller resignated and just called him, yeah, okay, I'll pronounce it a bit more American. American 123, proceed direct to Askek. Ah, direct to Askek, American 123. And that was it. Then they knew where to go to. Okay, for the arrival from Cologne, we are going to go down here to the star, expand that, and it is going to be a Gulco 24 transition for an ILS approach runway 24. Here we go, Gulco 24, enter that, and now we can enter the runway. You will note that there is no possibility to enter any transition in here. So in this case we can select the Gulco 24 because it's coded as a star in the Navigraph database. However, if you had a star and then a transition, you can't enter that. The reason, according to the developers, is that they suspect that the Transalls have always flown radar vectored approaches. So you only have a star, and then out of that you either fly conventional approach or you fly radar vectored approach. And thinking back to the time where the Transalls were constructed, that actually does sound quite possible to me. Back in the day there simply were no big transition and stuff like that. Okay, so hit init 2 times, operating empty weight is 35 tons. Then let's see, our fuel load, we can grab that right out of here. Fuel weight 11.6, so let's enter that. 11.6, enter. Payload, we have 2,500 kilograms, So 2. Nope, let's try that again. 2.5. Enter. And that is our data in. Okay. QNH looks good. Ground static air temperature. We'll quickly grab that from the weather, and it currently is 5 degrees. And flaps 10 for the takeoff. Does look good to me. Okay, perfect. So that's our initialization complete. So I'll just return that to the flight plan page over here. We'll do the same over here. And remember, the navigator's also got an FMS, so let's also start his up. Which doesn't seem to want to start. Okay, so be it. We can live with that. Alright, so that's our FMS programmed. Now let's quickly go over to our HSI. You can see down here we've got our route in, and here it is. Perfect, isn't it? Okay. And that is basically our setup completed down here. Now we've got our FMS route in the plane. And finally, up here, we will find this little switch, which we'll set to GPS. And like that, the autopilot is now able to follow our GPS routing. Alright. Only thing that kinda confuses me is that we see a white dashed line in here instead of a magenta line, which I did see last time I flew this, but the flight plan's in. Not really 100% sure as to what else I should do in here, so... Well, we'll see. I do suppose we'll just go flying and see if it's able to follow this or not. Seems like these things change with every update these days, so we'll just leave it at that. Okay, so next up we'll turn up the brightness of our HUD, and then we'll quickly move over to the FO side, and we'll give her some flight instruments as well, shall we? Like, here we go, and the HUDs can go up as well. Okay, perfect. So with that, we're good to go. Taxi light is coming on, and then we can start our taxi. So it's going to be a right-hand turn onto Zulu, then Yankee, and over there we are going to cross runway 07. So park and brake is off. And you can see plane rolls nicely in idle. Let's get also rid of the electronic flight bag. It doesn't have the ability to display charts yet, so from here on it served its purpose as a tooltip for loading the airplane, but from here on we are going to take over things manually. So, brake check. I always want to say pressure 0. Oh boy, I'm flying too many Airbuses. Okay then, clear left side. It's nice how the plane rolls in what is basically idle thrust, isn't it? Don't need any power at all to move it. Okay, clear on that right side, clear on the left side. I do have a feeling it's time to turn those instrument lights on. 1, 2, and 3. Okay, so let's break it down a little bit. Now we're going to turn on to November. And on November we can basically more or less backtrack, or in either words, taxi to the holding point. Here we go. Alright, so now it's going to be interesting to see how fast the airplane is actually going to get in idle. We'll sit here and wait and monitor. So intersection echo is going to be totally fine for our departure. We'll probably go for that. And in the meantime, let's just dim that HUD a little bit more. Yeah, this pretty much looks good. Basically, in terms of a heads-up display, you're supposed to dim it down far enough that you can still see through everything. So the way a HUD is supposed to be used is that you look at the terrain or the sky or whatever behind it and then just read the numbers as they appear to you. But you're not supposed to look onto the HUD, you're supposed to look through the HUD. And on the ground in the sim, I do believe it's easiest to calibrate this. Okay, let's slow down a little there. Got a bit fast there. So that's better. Feels a bit like in the A330, that thing also keeps going, even at max takeoff weight. Unless you're going uphill, the thing is going to accelerate past 30 knots for you in idle. Some massive engines on that plane. It looks like the TRANSALL is no different there. Beautiful sounds as well, aren't they? Really like them. Okay, that looks good to me. We can take the next intersection. That should be Bravo if I'm not totally mistaken. It is Bravo. Yep, there it is. Intersection Bravo. Stop at the holding point real quick. Here we are, and the parking brake is set. Okay, cool. So, taxi checklist, chronometer checked, brakes tested, NEI systems off, flag instruments checked, taxi checklist complete. Then let's go ahead with the before takeoff checklist. APU generator number 5. So, Gen 5 is off, and APU is also coming off. So, shutting down now. Yellow hydraulic pump, auto, fuel dump valve, closed. Here they are. Okay, so fuel dump valves closed. Then fuel pressure checked, flaps. Let's make it flaps 10 as we said. Here they are. Okay, another flight control track. Yes, they do a lot of them. So up, down, left, right. Everything works. Okay, doors closed, and now comes the point. Condition levers high idle. Let's see if those engines are gonna shut themselves down again. 1, 2, very good. Okay, cool, so that actually worked. Then let's go ahead with the lineup checklist. Landing lights, on, taxi light, retracted, water methanol pumps off, pitot heat, on, angle of attack sensor heat on, windshield heating, on, fuel pumps, checked, alarms, all off, lineup checklist complete. Alright, cool. So that's a parking brake off. Then it's time to line up. Clear left side, clear right side. Right, takeoff is going to be at full power. Climb power thereafter is going to be 13,500 RPMs. Timing. Takeoff. Okay, that's power set. 80 knots. V1, rotate. Heavy airplane. Positive climb, gear up. Okay, trimming it out, takes a little bit of time there. So, initial climb speed 130. Flaps up. Okay, still trimming here. Let's get the entire thing into trim. Okay, looking good. Set climb power. And here we are, 13,500 RPMs are set. Looking very good. Okay, let's try the autopilot. See what's gonna happen. AFCS on. Okay, let's turn on nav. Nav 1 is on. Okay, and the autopilot is actually doing its job. Sure enough, I turned it on at a bad moment in time, because I basically turned it on when we should have started the turn a bit earlier, so that's why it's probably going left and right for a bit. Then let's just make sure to continue the climb. Looking for 160 knots target speed, and we got the up and down button over here that we can basically use. So if I just give it a little bit of up input here, that should be sufficient to get the airplane climbing. Okay, climbing, not descending, please. Like, how much up do I have to press? Quite a descent right now. Okay, here it's coming. Now the nose is shooting really up though. Let's give it some down input. Oh boy. Once you got that settled, it's a rather easy autopilot to work with. But initially getting it settled is quite hard. Normally it should just hold the pitch and the bank when you engage it. But this one needs a little bit of convincing still. Like you just saw when I put it on. No, don't climb. Sorry, don't descend. Oh boy. Okay. So, now I want to get you into a climb, my friend. So, nose is coming up. Okay, that's better. Why not immediately like that? Okay, so we're up in the sky and we are climbing. Perfect. Flying a little bit fast, 160 should be our target, but I'm rather happy I have that thing stabilized for now, so if we fly a little bit faster, that sure enough can't hurt anyway. Okay, we're in the air, so the air valves can go open now, so that pressurization can begin. Then let's read the after takeoff checklist. So, landing gear up, flaps up, anti-ice system as needed, fuel pumps as needed, landing light off, water methanol pumps off, air conditioning bleed air valves, 2 of them opened, and we've got the 2 engine valves open. That's the after takeoff checklist completed. Okay, let's help it a little bit. We want to get the nose up a bit more. 1,000 feet a minute, superb, that's all we need. Alright, so quick system check up here. Cabin altitude is climbing nicely. Cabin is at 4,000 feet right now, still climbing, and the target is 8,000, that is alright. Rate of change looking good, differential pressure is building. In other words, the system works. Alright, very good. So, let's keep an eye on the power. We want to make sure that we get a constant 3,500 RPMs. And that is looking good to me now. Okay, very good. So, 13.5, exactly stable. Just as it should be. Very good then. So let's just quickly go down to the computer, take the altitude button, and our target altitude is going to be flight level 180. We'll enter that in the altitude selector. QNH 1013 is looking good. Return to the flight plan. Okay, so that is quite good. We are on the way. Lovely little sunset over here. The sun is about to hit the horizon. And then it should be just about 40 minutes until we make a lovely, nice and smooth touchdown on runway 24 at Cologne. Let's have a quick look down here at our HSI. So that's basically our route. Not exactly a straight line, but for Germany, that is actually quite good already. Laps timer, 8 minutes into the flight, looking good. So we can slowly start to think about our cockpit lighting, because the airplane really has a lot of different light controls. Now, I'm just going to go over a couple over here that we might need. I'm going to start with the upper console. That's basically the backlighting of everything you see up here, so like the letters, the lines, and all that sort of stuff. Similarly, if we go down to the pedestal down here, we got the same thing. Like that all the way up. And then obviously we got our main panel over here. We've got the side panels. And then we can do our floodlights. So instead of lights, we got a spotlight over here for the side, same on the FO side. Then up here we got the general pilot lighting, which is like a floodlight, as you can see down here. The same stuff on the FO side, of course. And then moving up to the aft part of the overhead up here, we got the formation light on the outside, a light operator. Then we can go on the other end side, where we've got some more stuff over here. And like that, we've got, well, a lot of different lights on our cockpit. But we're gonna switch them on gradually as our time gets a little bit later, as the sun sets down below the clouds. and as it gets darker on the outside. So RPMs have decreased a little bit again. Let's add a bit more power. 13.5 is what we're looking for, and that is looking good. Alright. So we're going to have a constant eye on that as we climb up higher. Also, we passed through 10,000, so a quick look over at the cabin pressurization. Cabin altitude is 6,000 now, differential is building, and the rate of climb is looking good. Target altitude 8,000 is looking good as well. Okay, passing through 11,000 with a target of 18. So if we talk a little bit about symbology on the heads-up display, it's a rather simplistic one. Somewhat reminds me of the F-14A model. And obviously we got the speed, we got our altitude, we got the target altitude, we got the heading, and we've got our airplane symbol down there. And that's basically it. You can see pitch should be somewhere around 7.5 or so. So it's pretty much just over here. But it's interesting seeing that the airplane symbol is down here. So that's probably the flight path vector then, rather than the actual airplane pitch. Which would be logical for a heads-up display though. So our pitch pointing somewhere up here, maybe 6.5 or 7 degrees or so, but obviously our flight path is going to be a little bit less, since our airplane still has a positive angle of attack. And that's what we see on the display down there. Okay then, again, keep the power, 13.5 is what we are looking for. Pretty much like so. Alright. So that is all that nice stuff. Now, we'll just fly it up to cruise level, then we're gonna go back into the passenger cabin, and we'll have a look at some of the cargo that we have loaded on our airplane. So, just gonna get it up to 18,000, and then we'll do all that stuff. Now, what is quite interesting on this airplane is that we've got a range that covers almost 10 flight hours. So this thing can fly 10 hours at a time. And back in the day, in the 90s, the German Air Force provided a lot of humanitarian aid in Africa. For example, they had regular flights down into Somalia out of Mombasa Airport, and the crews basically flew shuttles down there with humanitarian aid that they transported in the C160s. And they had stuff like, for example, lots of bags with corn on them, which they then threw out of the cargo ramp, while the airplane's been flying like 200 or 300 kilometers an hour at an altitude of just 7 meters. And there is a lovely video of that available on the website of the German Army, of the Bundeswehr. Or if you just visit their YouTube channel, you can find a lovely like 4 or 5 minute documentary of these missions, which I can honestly really recommend you to look at. It's incredible to see those aircraft not only in action, but it's just incredible to see how those packs with corn are being thrown out of the airplane. And obviously, eventually, some of those sacks are going to rupture when they hit the ground. But they lost only like 6 or 8% or so of all the goods that they dumped over there, and the rest came to the ground unharmed and could then be used. So that was quite a cool thing back then. And as mentioned, if you like the Transall, that is absolutely something I would recommend you to check out on YouTube. It's really amazing to look at. It's really, really amazing. Now, obviously, when you're doing such long flights, then fuel usage is going to be a major point. And in the Transall up here, we've got quite a complicated fuel transfer system. But don't worry, the manual explains it in detail, and there's a lot of very good information in there. So, for example, if we have a look at our fuel tanks over here, you can see basically from the left and right tanks we're using fuel, but from the center tank we're currently not. By the way, just looking at the gauges, Quantité combustible. Love it. French. Now you look on the left side. Landeklappen. Deutsch. It's incredible how they modeled an airplane exactly like it stood in the museum, and what we basically got on here is an actual mixture of how an airplane looked toward the end of its service life. So really cool. That's, by the way, also the story where we've got that little sticker on the overhead over there with the thank you to the museum that has offered access to the airplane. Really cool. Really, really cool. Okay, so let's just increase our rate of climb a little bit. 500 feet a minute does seem a bit too little for me. And also keep our power up. Looking for 13.5. That's looking better. Okay, 700 feet a minute. Not the very best rate of climb, but for our purposes, totally fine. It's an older aircraft, it's a propeller aircraft, so what would we expect? By the way, isn't this just a lovely sight? It's incredible, isn't it? Microsoft Flight Simulator still amazes me. Really does. If we just move over to the drone camera, have a look at that. Can fine-tune the perspective a little bit. Like, look at that, man. Amazing. Really amazing. This one as well. Really, really amazing. That sky looks really cool as well. Can we see that from the other side? That one just looked really good. I wouldn't be surprised if one of those pictures is going to become the thumbnail of the video. Because the way I do this is I usually always fly the flights first, and then I'm gonna do a replay at some point, and then pick a thumbnail right from the video, and then I added that in. So that's a little insight into how I work on the channel there. And I honestly gotta say that what I'm seeing right now looks really, really amazing. By the way, a little fun fact there. The version 1.2.0, remember we are flying 121 right now, version 120 had an incredible climb performance of like 4,000 feet a minute. Something went wrong there with the flight model, and the result is what we're seeing, or what we saw then, with a rate of climb that was just incredible. It was fun to fly. I surely hope that at some point we might get a military transport that is capable of doing that kind of stuff. Maybe a C130 or maybe an A400? Well, we can cross our fingers, can we? But for now, that TRANSALL is looking really amazing as well. So if we just head back into the cockpit for a moment. Almost there. Just had to take another screenshot because that just looked just as amazing. If we just head back into the cockpit for a second, then let's go to my favorite perspective like that one. Yeah, that's looking amazing. That is really amazing. Oh boy, screenshot time while I'm doing videos. Lovely. I sure hope that I'm not boring you with that. If you're still watching at that point, do let me know. Do let me know. It's just looking really good, isn't it? Look at those reflections of the light on the main panel there coming through the cockpit windows. That is amazing. That's just amazing. this simulator still catches me. After 3 and a bit years of using it now, it's still catching me. I can't wait to see what Flight Simulator 2024 is gonna look like. But okay, last couple feet in the climb, and then we have made it to cruising altitude, so we're almost there. Here we go. 17,500. Okay, altitude mode is captured, as we can see on the FMA up there. So let's see the level off. Yeah, the nose is coming down, but slowly. So we overshot here by 100 feet or so. But it's catching it. Okay. Well, not the best of all level offs, but we got there. So it looks like it's wobbling a little bit up and down around the target altitude, but that is okay. Obviously, in the real world it would not be okay, but for a simulator, that is fine. Okay then, let's turn on a couple more lights, and I'm going to start with the main panel over here. So you can see we've got that little light panel down there. Let's turn that on, and now we can create ourselves a mixture of white, UV, and green light. Let's start with UV, see what that looks like. Man, airplane, what are you doing? Alt mode is on, you're supposed to maintain 180. What's it doing down here? Yeah, 18,000 on 1013. Should definitely be maintaining that right now. Not sure why it's going up and down still. And even the altitude hold light is on over there. So, really not sure why it's doing that up and down. Show effect most likely, it didn't do it on earlier flights. That much I can tell. Well anyway, this is what the UV light looks like. We can do the same on here in the middle. Did on, UV, plus. Let's get that up for the entire main panel. I'm just going to show you a couple of options that you have for the lighting for the entire cockpit. So we can do it on the right side as well. Here we go. Alright, and that is one option of what you can make it look like. Quite cool, especially when it's getting like completely dark. That gives the cockpit really some sort of an atmosphere there, which I really like. Okay, we got other options though. We can put on a white light, which basically looks like this. Let's put that on all the other panels as well. One, two, and three. And here it is. That's what the white light looks like. Now, why would we have different lighting options overall for those aircraft? Well, that is a rather simple thing to answer, because simple requirements need to be met for different missions. So, when cruising along at night and you're doing a 10-hour flight, then sure enough having those white lights is going to keep you awake. Now, when you're going in combat though, you might want to prefer the green light that we've got over here. The reason why green might be preferred for going into combat or flying into a combat zone is because green is generally set to have a relaxing effect on the human. So when you turn up that green, it just has a bit more relaxing effect. Now that can also have its positives for flying at night, obviously. And finally you've got the UV light. Now that one is most important when you just want to be able to look outside the window and be able to see as much as possible outside while still having the ability to see a little bit on the inside. Alright, and that's the three lighting options we got for the main panel. Now let's have a quick look down here. Go into the lapse tunnel we had. Let's see that. Ground speed 250 knots. You can see it's not the fastest airplane. The wind is coming pretty much almost cross. Time to goal 2 minutes. But be aware that time to goal in this airplane basically just means time to the next waypoint. Not sure why they decided on the naming convention like that, but they did. And, well, suppose we have to live with it, do we? Okay, then, another thing that we can have a look at is some of the management functions that we've got on our FMS down there. So, right now we're in the altitude menu. Obviously, if we just hit return, we're getting back to the general setup. Now, going into the flight plan, we basically got our entire flight plan over here. We've got our estimated time of arrivals. So 15:28 is what it forecast over ASCII, which we're almost over. And then at 15:40 we're going to be in Gulco. Now we've got the clock up here as well, so that's like 11.5 minutes until we reach Gulco. And in Gulco, ATC will want us to be in flight level 110. So we've got to descend 7,000 feet, and we can basically just go ahead and pick a rate of descent on our own. But what I would recommend is make your life easy, take the 3 to 1 rule. So for every 1,000 feet to lose, we need 3 nautical miles. In other words, in order to lose 7,000 feet, we need 21 nautical miles. So 21 miles prior to Gulco, we are going to start our descent. The advantage of that rule is that when you look at your ground speed, you just take the ground speed, multiply it with 5, and then you get your target rate of descent, so about 1,200 to 1,300 feet a minute. And that's about as easy as it gets. So, I did promise you a look into the cargo hold a little bit earlier, so let's go ahead and do that. I'll just take out the electronic flight bag for a moment in order to turn on the lights in the cargo compartment. Alright, let's get rid of that EFB once more, and then we can now go to the back and have a look at what we've got down here. So, a couple of switches down here. Unfortunately, none of these is actually operative. Would be nice to have the light switches operating, for example, but, well, it is what it is. So, escape hatch over here, together with the associated ladder. That's the tank that we've loaded. Then we've got a couple of pallets over here as well. All that lovely stuff. Over here are seats, for example, for troops that you may want to transport. And look at that, we actually got a couple of paratroopers right up here. And the reason why we've got paratroopers and not normal infantry is that we're actually able to make them parachute out of the airplane. I'm going to show you that later on when we start our approach to Cologne, and when we get a little bit deeper, then we are going to let them jump out of the airplane. Obviously on a transport flight, like we're doing right now, that is not exactly the kind of thing you would be doing, but I just like the idea of having somebody jump out of my plane. And it's a great view outside the window as well, isn't it? Really like it. That looks quite cool indeed. Alright, so just another example of cargoes that you can carry in the C160 in the simulation. Also nice to see how they attached it to the airplane, like down here with all the straps and everything. Quite cool to see. The look into the cockpit when you're coming up is quite cool as well. I have to say, it still feels somewhat special to climb up that little ladder up here, or to climb up those stairs and have this view in the cockpit, if you know what I mean. That just looks really impressive. Okay then, if we go up here, in the cockpit itself, suppose you can sit on this, though I don't see any seatbelts up here, but I wouldn't be surprised if that's actually the place where you can put a seatbelt. So people do have the ability to sit in the back of the cockpit in here. Then obviously we've got our flight engineer seat in here, and then we've got our navigator station. Now the navigator station at this point is rather inoperative, so you can see all the equipment we got. Rather basic stuff there, and the FMS we have here in the back is currently inoperative as well. We do have some radar controls down here, but the radar screens themselves are not installed. Now, you may be wondering, so why on earth do we even have a navigator station then? Well, that is rather easy to answer indeed. The reason we've got a navigator station is because these aircraft here are aircraft of the 1950s, 1960s. And back in the day, you didn't have an FMS in there. You didn't have a GPS in there. So they actually navigated with maps, and they even went so far to use a sextant to make long-range navigation feasible in an aircraft like this. I mean, imagine all the fancy stuff like our electronic displays here to be removed from the plane, and imagine to have a simple HSI and ADI in place instead. And that is how they operated those aircraft back in the day. I honestly gotta say, it feels a little bit strange. Every time I'm stepping into the Airbus A330, we completely rely on those navigation systems to get us across the Atlantic, or to get us across the Sahara, or any of those remote places, northern Canada, where you just don't have any other navigation abilities. And if those things would actually go out, we'd be in trouble. I mean, you could always just go on the guard frequency, at least if you're flying across the North Atlantic. You can always go on the guard frequency and call for any NATO warship that might have a radar, and you can be pretty positive that if you just fly straight ahead for long enough, you will eventually find some NATO station that's got a radar that can guide you towards some sort of an airfield. So there's always that. But imagine back in the day with a cockpit like this and doing long-haul navigation over 3,000 nautical miles, crossing the Sahara, where there's just nothing, and where you know that if you're gonna land there now, then you are pretty much screwed. You are really pretty much screwed if that happens. Okay, so about 25 and a bit miles to Gulko. So we set at 21 we want to start our descent, so we can slowly prepare for that. If you want to know the exact mileage, just look down here into the FMS. Now 27 miles towards Gulko. So that makes your navigation rather easy. In order to start the descent, we're going to go to the alt page, and we will simply select the altitude down to the new target, and then we can do just like we did on the way up, where we used the pitch buttons up here in order to set the target pitch of the plane to get us where we want to go. That's about as easy as it gets for our navigation and for how we are going to handle that airplane. Alright, so set it to 20-mile range. When Gulko comes inside up here, that's basically our trigger to start the descent. Now, another little look here at the different lights. You can see the spotlight is quite a good one. Let me just zoom out a little bit for you, like that. I'm going to turn the spotlight off again. You can see the spotlight alone is a very effective tool to light up your airplane. But you've got more. Let's just go to a different perspective. Have a look at that. So, that's your pilot's light. That's like a reading light or a map light that you've got up there. Let's get rid of that again. Then obviously same thing on the other side over here. My tip though, don't use these anywhere close to the ground. They do seem to be rather blinding. Right, so up here that's the upper console light. That's what I showed you earlier, that one. Then up here, this one is called Light Operator. So let's zoom out a bit to have a look at what that's actually doing. Over here is the lamp. You can see this basically lights up the seat of the systems operator down here. Okay, let's get rid of that again. Very good. Formation light. If we turn that one up, we got the flight information light up here. So basically this can be used by another pilot when you are that can be used by another pilot when flying in formation to determine the actual size of the airplane. Pretty good to have, because if you've only got things like the nav lights and stuff like that, it's pretty hard to determine the actual size of an object at night when you only see the nav lights. But with something like that, like 3 lights on each wing or 2 at the back, easy going. Alright, so that's the formation lights. Then we can go back into the cockpit, and I'm pretty sure by now we can actually start our descent. Yep, here it is. Goal code to go. Let's see, time to goal. 3 minutes. So let's go ahead and start our descent. Going down to 1000. Enter, and the autopilot immediately starts down. So let's see what it's gonna do. So 2000 feet a minute. Looks pretty much okay. We're going to keep that, and I'll just let the airspeed increase. Okay then, up onto the air conditioning panel. Target altitude going down to field elevation, which is 300. But we want to drop some parachutists at first. We're going to do that at an altitude of 3000 feet. So let's get the cabin altitude down to 3000 at first. So from 8 to 3 is 5000, so we need 10 minutes to get the altitude down like that. So we just gotta do a little bit of mathematics over here. If we're running 2000 feet a minute, we need 8 minutes to get down. So we can see like, nah, that doesn't really work out. So let's go ahead and increase our cabin rate of descent a little bit. Got that button down here, change rate of descent. I'm going to increase that a bit. So what do we have now? A little bit more maybe even. Here we go, 800 feet a minute. So it should take about 10 minutes to get the cabin pressure down, and that is just about perfect. As we're descending, we make sure to keep our props at 1350. That is looking good. 1350, here we are. And then we can have a look into the descent checklist. Any other system is needed. It's off for now. Prop sync off. Pressurization setting check. Decision height. So we are not going to use the decision height today. It's going to be decision altitude. And that is going to be 550 feet. Okay, park and brake. Just making sure the lever is free to move, which it is. Perfect. And that's the descent checklist complete. Okay, then about to reach Gogo. Time to goal 2 minutes is definitely incorrect. And we're now diving down into the dark, into the darkness of the night. Again, pulling the power back every now and then. So let's go ahead and change those lights around a little. I want to go for the ultraviolet lighting here. So switching on the white, switching on the green. That just looks cool, doesn't it? Also, we can dim our displays a bit. Pretty much like so. And then the same on the last remaining display. And here we go. That's quite cool indeed. Right, let's continue our descent, looking for 5,000 feet next. Here we go. Okay, and if we are down on the panel already, then let's also have a quick look into the weather. QNH is going to be 1012, and we can just go ahead and set that over here. 1012, enter, and look at that, that is automatically going to select your altimeters as well. Okay, cool, then let's leave altitude hold, and we're going to initiate our descent. Hey mate, the other way around please. The other way around please. Yeah boy, what's it doing now? Here we go. Speed has come down nicely, I gotta say. Yeah, that up and down selector is sometimes still acting up. I don't know why it is, but so be it. The good news, though, is that the TRANSALL can really dive if needed. So look at that. Pulling the power, 4,000 feet a minute, no problem. So even though the autopilot may occasionally bring you into trouble, you can see when it comes to getting you out of that trouble, it's doing a fairly good job. And we are not even using speed brake yet. Let's get it out. Aero brakes are out. Look at that. Look at how much speed we are using. But then again, look at those aero brakes there. That's what you use to fly a Sarajevo approach, is it? Okay, so down we go, and down we go quickly. Quick look at the cabin pressure, make sure that it's keeping up. Cabin is passing 4,000 now. Let's increase that rate of descent to 1,000. Looking good. Okay, then let's go down to 3,000 feet, which is going to be the platform for our ILS. Then we can go into the RadNav page. We've got 109.1 that we can put active in nav1, and 109.1 that we can put active in nav2. Pretty much like that. Okay, so let's go ahead and set our course real quick. Okay, 243. And course number 1 is going to go on a 243 as well. Here we go. Okay, so while our airplane is now going to fly us onto the final, we can already see the runway down there. Let's go ahead and prepare our parachuters to go and jump. So speed is down below 160 knots. That's where it is right now. Airplane, why are you descending? It's in altitude mode. You see that? Why is it descending? Okay, so now we lost the speed out of sight again. Boy, how I love it. Okay, thank you, Autopilot. I've seen enough. Bloody thing is completely out of trim. Okay, let's climb back to 3,000, which is where we intercept the ILS. Yeah, autopilot caution, that was there because I disconnected it. Okay, so we are just going to give this a try real quick. Getting back to 3,000 feet. Just got to be quick now before we actually pass the final approach fix. Okay, back in 3000, speed is looking good, below 160. So let's get out that electronic flight back in here. And we're going to open the aft ramps. Like that. Okay, you ready to drop? Here we go. Come on guys, that worked very well before. Yeah, you may start. Am I blind or something? That worked like really well on the previous version. And now when I'm trying to show it... Oh boy. Not my day-to-day it seems. Really not my day-to-day. Ah. Okay, nope. Here we go. Drop-seated troops. And here we come. And down into the darkness they go. There you can see him hanging on the chute. And the next one's coming. Bye-bye. Okay, cool. So, you can see now they're actually gone from our gross weight. So the weight is now reduced to... The payload is now 2,150. Okay, and I've just completely lost the ILS. Oh boy, not exactly my day-to-day. That autopilot acting up was just really annoying. But we're visual, so we'll just continue like that. Let's get rid of the... Well, let's close the cargo doors. Get rid of the EFB. Okay, here we go. Back on the glide path. Localizer is coming back in. So note to myself, don't drop any troops over the area of Cologne while you're manually trying to fly an ILS. That doesn't really work. But it's okay. It's okay. Not everything can go perfect. So it just became really dark in here. But I kind of like the atmosphere of the airplane. Okay, let's start getting out some flaps. Flaps 10 and 20. Gear down. I've literally done better hand flying in the past, but gotta live with that for now. Okay, flaps down to 60. Gonna vacate the runway to the right at the end. Landing checklist, gear down, flaps full, prop sync off, landing checklist complete. So, ground speed 110 knots. That means in order to maintain our glide slope we need roughly 500 feet a minute. And that's selected now. Or rather, that is what I'm setting manually with my pitch now. It's a little hard to see the runway occasionally, because the bottom of the hut is just exactly where the puppies are. I wonder if that's the same in the real world if you've got like the optimum seating position, which I'm fairly sure we've got, since the actual indication of our hut there seems to be rather correct. Okay, wind is coming from the left. Okay, power idle. And we're down. Okay, props in reverse. We'll just let it roll. The military apron is located at the far end of the runway. 60 knots. Props back. And that's looking quite scenic, I gotta say. That's why I turn on the UV lights. Okay, that's our taxiway coming over there. Okay, where's the taxiway? There it is. Here we go. So obviously, I kept the landing lights off. Number one, because I just couldn't find the switches. Well, here they are. That's better. But number two, and that is of course the true reason, it's not that I couldn't find the switches. It's obviously because I wanted to get that tactical feeling, if you know what I mean. Okay. That much about that. So, to suppose we do the after landing stuff. So NEI systems all off. And before we do that, let's turn on a couple of those lights in here. I want to be able to see something. And on the FO side as well. Here they are. Right, that's much better. And we should have a couple more though. Light operator, probably. Yeah, it does help with the overhead. Incredible. Okay, cool. You know, I'm pretty sure in the real world, if we'd look into the lamp up there, we wouldn't see anything behind it. But, flight simulator. Okay, so, NEIs all off. Taxi lights on. Landing lights off. Flaps. Are coming up. Then spoilers retracted, trims, neutral, front fuel pumps. 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 of them off, and yellow hydraulic pump is off. That's the after landing checklist complete. Interestingly enough, it doesn't tell us to put the condition levers back, but I'll just do that anyway. Okay then, turning on to the military apron. We'll park straight in front of the hangar over here. Maybe not on the service road. Here we go. Okay, so shutdown checklist. Air conditioning bleeder valves, 3 off. Looking good. Park and brake. Set. Taxi light. Off. Engine vibration measures. Off. Fuel pumps. A little hard to see, but here they are. 8 off. Condition levers. Cut off. Anti-collision lights. For that we're gonna wait until the engines have stopped, but we can already put off the INS. We can turn off our transponder. We can silence the warnings. Okay, that's our engine stopping right over there. So anti-collision light locator on the top over here is going off. Okay, propeller brake as needed is not needed. Then we can put the batteries off, and that is our flight completed. So, thank you everyone for watching. Interesting. Alright, thank you everyone for watching. I do hope that you enjoyed this one. If you did, do let me know in the comments below. So, what can we say on the Atsopoli C160 TRANSALL? Well, it made some good progress in that it's now able to fly in FMS routing. In my opinion, the next thing that should need attention is the Autopilot, as it should also be able to follow that FMS routing and to navigate the airplane properly in flight. But that's hopefully for the next couple of updates. But for now, we can see some good progress with an FMS added. And correct me if I'm wrong, I do believe this is the first airplane to be released in an early access state that actually got an FMS added to it. So well done for that, Atsopoli. There is a little bit of work to go, but overall a nice airplane. At least once it's got a little bit more updates, but I'm sure it's slowly getting there. And with that, this is going to be this video. So thank you very much for watching, everyone. I do hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. And if you did, do let me know in the comments below. I'm looking forward to your input on this one, and then I hope to see you again on the next one. Thank you very much. And if you really liked the video, I would appreciate a small donation through the Buy Me Coffee link in the video description below. Thank you very much, and see you all on the next one.